Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We're excited to be with you to talk more about AI-powered OCR. Before we get started, I did want to mention that this webinar is recorded and there'll be a chance at the end to ask questions. So feel free to jot down anything that comes to mind that isn't clear or you'd like more information about. You'll also receive a follow-up email for your convenience with our slide presentation included. So my name is Garrett, and I am an automation consultant here at Rossum. You will also hear from my colleague Lucas, who is a business development manager. As an automation consultant, my goal when speaking to prospects is to learn more about your current data capture process and help you understand if and how Rossum can fit into your workflow to increase efficiency, saving you time and money. Lucas, could you tell us a little more about what you do as a business development manager?
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Garrett. So my name is Lucas, and as a business development manager here at Rossum, my role is to really deep dive into your current processes and to understand the pain points. And then I can help together to envision how a Rossum solution can address some of these pain points and to improve the overall efficiency of your company, especially in a commercially viable way. So I'm looking forward to speaking to you guys more today.
We have some very practical information for you today to help you understand the concept of AI-powered OCR. So we're going to hit on the different ways that you can currently capture data, discuss AI-powered OCR, help you understand the four key benefits of AI data extraction, and give you some real-time examples. Towards the end of the webinar, we'll have a live demo of our trial version, and throughout the presentation, you'll hear more about our trial version capabilities. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll take some time to answer your questions at the end. We're living in a time where technology has radically changed our lives, from robots and self-driving cars to interactive holographic images. I know I've even experienced a virtual reality escape game designed to transport you to another world. So technology is quite advanced and often changing. Yet we still have people who are spending a lot of their time manually processing documents or creating templates for new vendors. This doesn't have to be the case. And if you're one of these people, you're probably wanting to spend your time doing more analytical tasks and things that require you to use your mind more. All right, let's discuss a little more about traditional data capture methods. You, of course, have the manual process. So manual data entry is not scalable. If you want to increase your processing time, you're going to have to hire more manpower to do so. And if you're mainly doing this now, I'm sure you're aware of how repetitive tasks can lead you down a road of hating your job, and that's not something we want. With template-based OCR, it's a little better than manual entry if you have the same vendors each time, and there, of course, is no alteration needed. However, implementation of OCR templates is often time-consuming, results in ongoing maintenance, and you can see new fees long after the first implementation. So you'll have to use resources from your IT team or expect the vendor to make any alterations. So now that we've mentioned the traditional data capture methods, let's talk more about AI-powered OCR. Our AI-powered OCR comes ready to use as soon as you sign up for the trial version. So the trial AI has been pre-trained to recognize invoices, and you can expect to have 80 to 90% accuracy per data field when you're extracting the data from invoices. When compared to manual data entry, our user-friendly interface with the point-and-click aspect, which you'll see later in the demo, allows for a much faster processing time, anywhere from 6 to 8 times faster. AI-powered OCR is non-template based, so there's no need to create new templates when there's a new vendor. The AI is able to extract information from various formats. So how does it work? You can see here the first step is to send your documents to Rossum. So this can be done directly in our user interface via email, some RPA robot, or an API connection. The second step is the reviewing or validating process. So once the document has been uploaded, the AI is going to extract the data, and then a human is going to validate it. So a human is double checking the extraction and correcting any mistakes. Then the third and final step is then sending your exported data to the accounting or ERP system of your choosing. You can also, of course, export as a Excel file. A little bit later in the presentation, we'll talk more about our dedicated AI. So we can train the AI to read just about any document with semi-structured tabular data, and we can create custom fields that you can extract from those documents. This, paired with machine learning, allows the AI to learn as the human makes corrections. So we'll talk more about this later. You'll also see a list of clients already benefiting from our dedicated AI in a few slides. Okay, so here you can see in the graph the different approaches we have. In the red, the traditional approach has longer configurations where the templates are typically maintained by expensive experts. And in the green, Rossum's AI with a fast integration and with the AI OCR being maintained by the continuous learning AI. Okay, so now is a chance for you to interact with us. So if you could answer, how are you currently capturing your data? And I'll give you some time to answer here.
Okay.
Okay, so it looks like the majority of people are doing this manually. So Lucas, I'll let you take over from here.
Yeah, absolutely. So in my experience, I have seen that the results from this poll are actually pretty true in real life. I would say we have quite a few of the potential clients we see are still processing their documents manually. I believe that close to 90% of data entry is still done manually. So we do see quite a few of our Rossum clients were using a template-based solution before. But for whatever reason, that's just maybe not quite as flexible as you guys would like. So I think that Rossum does offer a very good alternative to both of those. So I'm glad to see that we do have a audience that does accurately represent who Rossum does currently serve. So I'd like to take the conversation a bit further to discuss the benefits that Rossum can provide. So we like to break this down into 4 key benefits that you would see with us. So overall, we're looking to save time and cost for your current data capture solutions. So since our solution is cloud-based, it is very easy to integrate, deploy, and customize. The tool itself is being updated on a weekly basis, and our generic AI engine is being trained globally by all of the input from all of our users. So it is improving over time. And the deployment itself is essentially instantaneous. If you guys have used our trial version, I do encourage you to do so. It does leverage our generic AI engine, and you can see how it functions, but it's essentially our start version is the same thing you would see in our trial version. So you can just go ahead and get started and start uploading documents immediately. So with that immediate deployment, it does result in fast ROI. So the generic AI engine, just a brief overview, it's essentially a set of algorithms. It's been trained on several million documents. So essentially it doesn't need any setup. You can just start uploading documents. The engine will automatically recognize 48 fields that are pre-built in. So you will see ROI from day one. These are fields that you would not have to manually type in or create a template for. And in getting that quick ROI, it will be able to immediately free up resources. So over a manual process, we typically see efficiency improvements of 6 to 8 times. how you can envision it is for all of the data fields that you would be entering manually or relying on a template for. The out-of-box solution is typically going to get like an 80 to 90% accuracy on header fields and is also able to extract line items as well. So it does work, and you will see the benefits essentially immediately. Above all, it is going to streamline your processes. Your data processing can happen in one place. I see so many times, especially with manual processes, where forms are literally being sent or in some cases physically walked across the office for approval. In this way, we can centralize everything into one platform. We can give users access to the documents that they need to have access to, and we can really cut down on any excess time that's being spent doing the data capture. So Rossum, our generic AI engine, this is kind of our core package. This has been trained on several million invoices, so it is designed to extract data from invoices and purchase orders. But as Garrett had mentioned before, we do have a higher level that is able to be customized to recognize other document types and data fields. So you can see here, these are the industries and the document types that we have currently expanded to. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of flexibility above invoices and POs. So in my experience, I've seen a lot of cases where we've started to process the invoices, POs for an AP department, and they've asked, hey, can you guys process this other document type, this bill of lading or the purchase requisition? And we'll take a look at it. You just send us some samples. We look at the formats. We'd see what kind of logic there is behind it. And in many cases, we are able to train the engine to recognize these types of documents automatically. So although we are focused on invoices and POs with our core product, there is a lot of flexibility. So I would say, even if you don't see a particular document that you're interested in extracting on this list, I would definitely encourage you to get in touch with us. We have a contact us page where you can go ahead and let us know that you have a different document type. And we'll get in touch with you and we'll take a look. We'll have our solution engineers review it, and we'll give you a prediction on the trainability of the documents. I'd like to just add that we are a research and development company as well. So we do enjoy a challenge. So I would say send whatever you guys have at us, and we'll see what we can do with it. Okay, so we have one more poll. So it looks like the vast majority of us are processing invoices, but we do have some other document types, which I think is really cool. So as we'll get into in just a minute, we do have, as I've been mentioning, two different engines that we're using. So we do have the generic AI engine, which is focused mainly on invoices and purchase orders. It's what you'd see with our trial version. So you can go ahead and get started with a trial account, upload some invoices, purchase orders, and you'll see what the out-of-box functionality is. It's very good, very flexible. It can handle a wide variety of formats. So it's also interesting to see that we have other document types such as insurance claims, property documents, government forms. So these are different document types that we can train the engine to recognize as well. So I think it's nice that we have a good representation here as well. So we'll get into that. I'll explain it a bit more in detail as we move forward. But let's go ahead and continue here. Okay, so how Rossum works. If you guys have used the trial version, you're probably aware of these. I'll run through it. It's essentially 5 pretty simple steps to go from an image file to extracted, categorized data that's fed directly into your ERP. So the first step would be the import stage. So you can either scan the documents and upload them directly to the Rossum portal. We can handle scanned images as well as digital PDF files. So one way that we can import is to set up an email box where you can forward all documents with the attached image files. The Rossum platform will then automatically parse the mailbox and upload the image files into the platform, and then it will automatically start extracting. If you guys are using any RPA tools, we are partners with UiPath and Blue Prism. So we actually do have pre-built integrations with them. So it's a very simple integration and implementation as well. We can just add Rossum as a custom activity, and it will take the information and just put it right back into the RPA workflow. In most cases, if we're not working with RPA, we can just do an API connection, so we can automatically or automate the import and the export. I would say in 99% of cases, we're able to automate this. So it's kind of a sort of unseen part of the process. But once the documents are in the Rossum platform, the AI engine goes to work. It starts to recognize the fields on the that you would choose to be extracted from the documents. At that point, it will then display the extracted data in our user interface. I'll demo this for you guys if you haven't seen it in the trial version already. But the user interface, it's super easy to use. You can do all of your corrections right there. Any corrections you need to make are just point and click. So it's designed to be to spend the least amount of time as possible on this. And then we can run it through an extension. So this would be an extension environment could contain business rules that you have. One very common function is a matching function. So if you want to do a fuzzy search, say in a vendor database for your company, we can take the extracted data, match it to information in your database. We can essentially create a match. We can verify that the information is 100% accurate. If there are any discrepancies, we can then mark those for review. So the extensions are a really good way to automate the data that we know is correct while isolating the data that needs to be reviewed and allowing us to have the highest levels of automation possible. And then, of course, the last step would be exporting that either as just a pure Excel document, if you're old school like I am, or if you want to just send it to your ERP or back into the RPA workflow. In most cases, this process is automated as well. All right, so the 4 key components of the Rossum platform, which you have mentioned, so I'll just go through it again. The AI engine, as I had said, trained to automatically recognize your data. It will then present that in our validation UI, where you can point and click, make any adjustments you need to as well. Run it through the extension environment to help classify the information, make sure that it's going to be read by your ERP correctly. And then on top of that, we also have a very robust reporting engine. I'll show this briefly in the demo, but you can get a feel for this in the trial version as well. It has quite a few important KPIs, such as documents processed, processing time, accuracy, of course. So you will be able to have total visibility over the actions that will happen in our platform. Okay, so we can jump into kind of the details of the artificial intelligence itself. So I had mentioned the generic AI engine that can automatically read the invoices and POs. That's kind of a more basic function. It works really well for AP departments, but we do have a higher level of functionality that we call our dedicated AI engine. It's essentially built on top of our generic engine, so you will get all of the functionality that is based towards invoices and POs, but you are also able to extract different data fields from different document types. So as we can see here on the right side of the screen, we have a couple use cases that were very successful with some of our larger clients. So essentially the process of how we train the dedicated AI engine, it's essentially a 2-step process. So you guys would prepare a sample set of at least 500 documents. You can actually use these in production if you would like, because we would be running them through the engine. Then the engine would be extracting the data, the 48 standard fields that it is trained to recognize. And then we would also add the additional custom fields that you would want to recognize. They would show up in the schema. I'll demonstrate this a bit later, but there'll be essentially dummy fields at the beginning. And then it would just be a process of pointing and clicking to the information on the document to show the engine where and what the data is. So after these 500 examples, the engine has enough data to then start making accurate, educated guesses on where the data is on a form. So it is using the human feedback to learn. I think a really good analogy, and essentially the same function, is the way that Tesla is teaching self-driving cars. So say, for instance, you're driving the car, it's doing its own thing, the AI is in control, but you need to teach it how to make a U-turn. Say it doesn't know how to do that yet. So you'd get to an intersection and you would then put your hands on the wheel, you'd turn the car around, and then you'd take your hands off and let the AI do its thing again. So we would take the data from that human input and then use that to train the engine, so that the next time it gets in a similar scenario where you need to make a U-turn, the engine would know how to do that automatically. So with this initial 500 sample set, the engine does learn how to recognize it, but on top of that, you will get monthly recurring trainings. So basically, we'll take all of the corrections that were made in our user interface every month and use that to then retrain the engine and deploy a new model. So the result is that the accuracy is going to increase every month. So we have some cases, as you can see here, 97% accuracy. And you look at after on the right side of this screen, after processing, one of them is under 2,000 documents. I don't know about how big your companies are, but I know we have some clients that probably do this in one day. So you can see that the accuracy increases in some cases can happen very, very quickly. And then on top of that, since it is being retrained every month, you are going to see improvements every month. We're going to get closer and closer and closer to that 100% mark. So you can think of it, the longer that you use a dedicated AI engine, the better it's going to get. So that's what we're looking for at Rossum, is to develop these long-term relationships so you can have the data to train an engine that's highly, highly effective. So one real life example that we have is Cushman and Wakefield. And they are a real estate giant in the UK, but they had a case where they wanted to train rates demand documents. So they had quite a few fields on here that our engine had never seen before. As you can see in this graph on the right, all of these colored fields, these were new fields for our engine. So you can see it started at 0%, did not recognize them at all. And you can see even by what that looks like the 250 document mark, the accuracy has jumped up considerably. The engine is starting to recognize this on its own. And by the time we get to that recommended 500 document volume, the engine has had enough data that it can make highly accurate guesses on most of the fields. And even some of the fields that were trained a bit slower, you see that the accuracy does increase. By the time we get to 1,000 documents, we're essentially almost at 90% for almost all the documents. And then this is going to increase the longer that we train the engine as well. So what this means, we can essentially train any semi-structured document that would have new fields on it. And then you'll see that in this case, 70% of the manager's time was freed up in the first month alone. Which is going to have huge implications if your managers are able to spend their time on something else that's going to bring a bit more value to the company. Then this is, I think, adding even additional ROI, more so than just the time saved on the manual data entry itself. And this is going to improve over time. So not only are the numbers going to look good, but the managers are going to be really happy as well. So, and as you can see, our good friend Dustin at OpenBox has good things to say. And this is kind of the type of long-term relationships that we're looking to establish here at Rossum. Okay, so now is the time where we will just go into a live demo. So I'll go ahead and jump into our user interface. So this here is actually our trial account. So you see at the top, this is our free trial version. So you'll see in this trial account, the main limitation is that the automated learning is not enabled here. This is just mainly to control the type of data that's being fed and trained to the engine, just so that we can make sure it's accurate data, so the accuracy is increasing. What we can do just to start is to take a look here at the left side of the screen. We'll see these three fields here. This is what we call queues. It's essentially the most basic division of workflow that we have. So each queue is going to have a particular set of schema or data fields that it is looking to extract from each document. So we can go into the settings and actually choose which data fields are being extracted. So these are the 48 standard fields that are built into the engine here. So you can, it's easy as just turning them on or off. You can see we have basic information, payment instructions, VAT, tax amounts, vendor and customer details, as well as line items. So with our generic AI engine, the standard offering, it does contain pretty much all the fields that you typically need on an invoice. This is how you are able to automate a large percentage of the data fields that you need to extract without any customization. It's all right there for you. And even further in the settings, we can set certain regions, which tells the engine to expect certain date formats, currencies, etc. We can also set automation levels, where we can set a confidence score threshold. So 97.5%. Essentially, this has to do with the confidence score that every field is being assigned by the engine. So then if it is above a certain percentage or threshold, we can just automate that field. It doesn't even ask you to check it, and it only asks you to check any fields that are below that threshold. So this is a really good way that we can automate a lot of the work that you're doing and really focus the efforts only on the fields that need to be reviewed. I guess one other piece to explain would be the workflow setup. So here you can create the queues and organize them into workspaces. So in this example, I have split it by region. So this is, you have complete freedom to organize the workflows as you see fit. If you have certain document types or certain types that need certain information extracted and other ones that need other information, we can split those into different queues. And then even above that, we can give users access to certain queues as well. So it's very easy to make sure that the users are only viewing the queues that are relevant, so that we don't get confused and say accidentally review a document twice. Okay, and I guess, yeah, before I jump into the actual review, I can go through our reporting tool as well, as I had mentioned. So this is built in, and it has, I believe, 6 KPIs that are built in: usage, time, the corrections that you're making on time versus late, if turnaround time is an important KPI for your company, as well as the time and corrections per field breakdown and time per document. So you do have quite a bit of visibility here, and you are able to isolate it, say by queue or user type, certain time periods. So you do have quite a bit of visibility in this regard. So jumping into the actual the review process here. So these 2 documents you'd see here have been uploaded, like we said, either by email or RPA workflow or an API call. So they will come in here, they will process. These have already been processed. You can hover to see a preview and click to go into the actual review stage. So what you see here on the left side of the screen, these are the data fields that have been extracted. This is what we select in the queue settings. That is telling the engine which fields we are wanting to extract. So in this case, you see this blue eye icon. These are the fields that the engine is suggesting that you would review. For whatever reason, it didn't meet the confidence score threshold. I believe for this issue date, it wants to make sure that the day and month is configured correctly, whether it's January 3rd or March 1st, for example. But as you can see here, when we do need to review a field, we will have the information directly below. This is one of kind of a very subtle feature, but actually makes a huge difference when you are checking the documents and you see it right below. You can tell really quickly if it's correct or not. So if it's not correct and we need to change anything, so say, for example, we want to use the invoice number, you can draw a box here and it automatically detects it. For this one, we'll just click it and keep it the same. Great. So we'll just go through, we can actually just press enter and it will skip all of these high confidence fields and it will go to the next field that it would ask you to review. We have VAT rates here. Yeah, so we can go through, it's the same thing. You can get into a really good rhythm. I know that I've tested this myself and you can really fly through invoices once you get into a rhythm here. But also for line item extraction, this is an important piece. I don't think too many products on the market are able to handle line items very well, just because they tend to be pretty complex and it's really easy to confuse an AI engine. We have a really cool feature called a magic grid tool. So if we click this, it looks like the extraction was actually really, really good out of box, but just for demo purposes, we'll click the magic grid and you'll see what it's doing here is drawing a grid over the tabular data itself. It's essentially guessing where the rows and columns are and then labeling the columns as such. So in this case, code looks good, description did it well. If we need to change anything, you can pick from these are standard line item fields. You can actually add in any custom fields, any dummy fields, and these will show up on the list, so you can label them themselves if you want. With the dedicated engine, we can train the engine to label the columns a bit better if you have any additional columns. And if you need to make any adjustments, add any rows or columns here, you can do as such or drag them up and down. But I think one thing that's, if you do have quite a few line items, this is just in itself can save you so much time. I know we have one company that was in the construction industry that had like hundreds of line items per invoice, and they were spending hours having to type these up. And with this magic grid tool, it was just setting up the grid, labeling the columns, one click, read from the table, and there's all your information. So even apart from the AI, this is a really cool feature that I've seen save companies a ton of time. So yeah, at this point, it looks like we're good. We can confirm it. It will automatically move to the next document, and it's pretty much the same process over and over. So you can get pretty good at it with a little bit of experience. And at that point, it will automatically move to the exported tab. And what you'll see here, these will be all the documents that are ready for export. So you can either download them. We have support XLSX, CSV, XML, or JSON file if you want to do anything manually. Or of course, we can do the API calls or put it back into an RPA workflow. And yeah, once we get to this point, I guess the other piece that we don't have enabled here would be an extension environment. This could do any automatic matching. So in the review process, you can have, say, drop-down menus that would give you certain options if you wanted to select it. But typically the connector is working behind the scenes and essentially manipulating the information so that when it is exported to an ERP, it's formatted exactly the way that you need it, and it is ready to go without any further manipulation. So yeah, that is pretty much Rossum in a nutshell. It's pretty streamlined. Let's just head back to the presentation. And yeah, at this point, I know that was a ton of information, so I'll go ahead and open the floor to any questions, and we'll do our best to go ahead and answer. So we can start with Sanjay. How do you handle documents that the system may not have seen before? Say loan estimate form from a mortgage or any of the hundreds of mortgage documents. So this would go back to the dedicated AI engine. Where you can train the engine to recognize the fields from the loan estimate, and it would be the process of just annotating the 500 sample documents, and then with that data, the engine should be able to extract the data. All right, so which languages do we support? So the engine is actually language agnostic. The only requirement would be that it is Latin script. So basically any European-based language can be read and processed by the engine. So I guess the limitation in this regard is we haven't added other scripts such as Arabic, Cyrillic, Japanese. We are essentially just waiting to gauge the demand from those markets, but it is certainly a possibility that we would add it in the future. From Vikas, can we take images or scan copy as an input? We absolutely can. So we do have a requirement, I think a minimum of 150 DPI, font size of 6 or above. So I would say the main limitation in that regard would be the OCR recognition itself. So if you have a really grainy scan, or there's lots of marks or handwriting all over the document, it may affect the engine's ability to actually read the document itself. You can think that if a human is going to have difficulty reading it, a robot is certainly going to have the same difficulty. So we advise to pre-process the documents as much as possible, and then the engine should be able to have a really solid extraction. Regarding the cost to use. The costs would be, so let's just start. The trial version is free to use. You can process up to 300 documents per month. I highly, highly recommend registering for a trial account. You can see all of this in action, upload some of your own documents, and see how the engine is treating these. So it's a really good way to do like an initial POC, something if you really want to just get an MVP or something like that on the table. And then once you have the results, we can take a look at those. If you're happy with the results, we can buy you can purchase a license for our generic AI engine. If you would like to see improved results, whether it is adding custom fields for a new document type, or just to improve the accuracy of the engine overall, then we can look into our dedicated AI engine. So essentially, the pricing is based on a platform subscription, just with the different functionality. So there's quite a few different things. I would encourage you, if you do have questions on which platform is best for you, to just go and fill out a contact us page. Someone you might likely hear even from Garrett, and you guys can have a conversation about what your requirements would be. And then, yeah, if it sounds like a good fit, then you'd be passed over to me, and I would discuss the commercials with you. So yeah, we really take a hands-on evaluation of each of our customers' needs, and then we can price it based on the platform and volume size that would meet your requirements. Other languages for the name of the fields. This is actually a really good question. So you are able to do this as well. Maybe I can go ahead and I can actually show you how to do this right away. You can go into the settings, and this is one thing I didn't have a chance to go through in the demo, but you can actually edit the schema, and this will take you to the JSON editor, and you can go through and change the label. So say for this first one, invoice type, we can go ahead and change the label to whatever it is you like, and you'll see it goes right there. So you can relabel it. This is really common for any customer that's not using English. You can make it all legible for you.
So it seems like there's quite a lot of questions. So I think it might be better to, if you posted a question and you didn't get an answer to it, you can see here, you can email any questions to webinars@rossum.ai, and we'll do our best to get those questions answered, so you have something to go off there.
Cool. Thank you, Garrett. All right. Well, I think that concludes our webinar for today. So I want to thank everyone that attended. I hope this was informational for you. If you want to learn more, please go to the website, fill out a contact us form. We'll get in touch. We can have a one-on-one discussion about your needs, and we can really get into sort of the details of your requirements and discuss how Rossum can meet those. So I'm hoping if you did find it informative, please just get in touch with us, and we can continue the conversation. So yeah, I guess on Garrett and I's behalf, thank you so much for joining, and we hope to talk to you soon.